at club level, obviously, I feel that Ainsley, and I've said it before, they were the only club in Canberra that put a team into the inaugural season, both women's and youth girls. They've, always been at the forefront. Things haven't always been perfect in acknowledgement and recognition of things, because there was a lot of people, even in the club itself, that felt that women shouldn't be there when we first started. And so sort of watching it there at the club and continue to progress. And then up into AFL Women's, I was coaching still when AFLW started. And that was interesting, watching that sort of get off the ground and see how much it's progressed. And just, you've watched the games. They're amazing. Those women are just incredible. So, yeah, I think the skills are just off the charts now compared to what we used to see. Kicking, even distances of kicking and handballing, and the fact that women are now encouraged to be footballers, not women who are footballers, just be footballers. That's been really great, and seeing all of that. And it starts at club level. And I think that all the community clubs that committed to driving women's football and making it a presence in the club, so that the older men and the older people around who didn't feel that they should be there, just going, well, they're here, deal with it, has really driven to a point now where AFLW is thriving. It's doing really well. And people are starting to respect women playing sport and seeing how great they can actually be. And it'll be interesting to see in another 10 years again, because there's been so much growth since the late 90s. It's going to be interesting to see where we are in another 10 years. Well, obviously now girls are getting drafted to teams. When we were playing rep back in the day, they would just select a rep team, like an SCG rep team, and we would go. I think the first time I went was I must have started in 1998, because it was 1999. I went in 1999 to Perth, and we played the national championships over there. I think I played rep till 2004. And then I didn't really play rep much, not 2004. Yeah, it would have been 2004. Didn't really play much after that. So I can't really speak for those years in between, as I wasn't heavily involved. I know that it was still happening, obviously, and that girls were, training rep and doing that and developing, and then going away to nationals. I know that with AFL Women, obviously, when I was coaching, when they were starting and they were coming down and looking at players, I felt a little bit that we weren't able to, as coaches, have as much influence on that as probably would have been preferable, in that I had a talented player at that time, and I encouraged them to come look at her, and was told that at 21 she was too old. And then I see, they're drafting 35-year-old ex-athletes from other sports, and that was really disappointing, because I felt that there was a lot of people who could have contributed, and if they came down and had a look, at some of the games in Canberra or heard about it, there might have been that. And then incidentally, they tried to draft this player later, a couple of years later, and she was so angry about how it went down. She said no. She said no when they approached her to ask if she wanted to come along, because she didn't feel that it was for her anymore, and she'd gone on and continued with her study, and now didn't have the time, and she could have been a really, really good player, and she was just lost in that process, because there was no way for us to be like, hey, there's a really good player, where do we put them to in AFL Canberra, where do we maybe even, and because all the training camps that they did, people had to have not played before or anything, all the trials, so it was really hard. It was a really confusing process. And there wasn't really a lot of ways. And the only reason I got in contact with someone from the Giants is that I knew someone, and I got an email and a phone number, and I chased them. And so it was probably a bit inappropriate, but I made a call and was like, hey, I think you should come look at this player. And they told me no. So that was really disappointing. And I felt that they've done very well, but I don't know how men get men looked at or get male players looked at. I'm sure they must do. But there was a lot of, male coaches coming into AFL Women's, and then basically mansplaining women's football to us and telling us how they felt it should be directed. And that was super, I'm not sure what other people's experiences were, but my experience when AFL Women's started I was a bit like, well, that's disappointing. I felt that we could have really, as a community, because the community clubs are the ones that started it, really embraced it and pushed it up to another level in that regard, or had some avenues to contribute, and there didn't appear to be them.